Hi, I'm Hannah Burke. I'm the Program Evaluation Specialist at Developmental FX, a nonprofit pediatric clinic in Denver, Colorado in the United States.
And I'm Donna Katz. I'm the Clinical Services Manager at Sensational Kids here in Ireland.
And we're going to be talking about the feasibility of a multidisciplinary, multi-site clinical program evaluation process. So we're going to start by giving you some background on our collaboration, get into our methods for how we conducted this program evaluation, share our results, and then share our implications and what that means.
Right, so what we did at Sensational Kids was we decided that we needed to be able to quantify the therapeutic process that we were engaging in with children and families. So we collaborated with Developmental effects in order to quantitatively measure our therapeutic outcomes. So we had lots of feedback from parents. We knew our children were improving. We have lots of anecdotal and lots of qualitative data, but we really wanted something quantitative to provide us with information on the service that we were providing and whether we really were making a change in children's lives. So, Sensational Kids is a social enterprise. Our core mission is to provide accessible therapeutic services to children of all abilities. 1 in 4 children in Ireland has an additional educational need. So there are about 1.68 million children in Ireland, which leaves us with around 420,000 children with additional educational needs. Sensational Kids has 4 centres, 1 in each province in Ireland. We have a centre in Clonus in County Monaghan, we have 1 in Claremorris in County Mayo, another in Clonakilty in West Cork, and then our centre in Kildare Town in County Kildare. So Sensational Kids provides subsidised occupational therapy, speech-language therapy, and educational psychology services for children. We also provide play therapy, and we have parent and teacher consultations. We also have an e-learning platform where we have some webinars that are available, and we do face-to-face training for parents and teachers in schools as well. So how we work. So we use evidence-based practice, and we use a variety of different frameworks. So we may use a sensory integration lens for the majority of the work that we do, because that supports our caseload most effectively. We also use principles from DIR floor time. We would use sensory motor principles, perceptual motor principles, but everything that we use is evidence-based and research-based. We have really well-resourced sensory motor gyms and therapy rooms, and we're really blessed to have the resources and the equipment that we have. Our children will either attend 30 or 45-minute therapy sessions, and they'll either come weekly or every alternate week, bi-monthly, or some of them will only come once a month, and they'll be children who have a home program, so they'll come back in to upgrade or downgrade their home program, depending obviously on how they've managed the work at home. So next we have a little video for you, which shows you what therapy looks like at Sensational Kids.
So in order to conduct the program evaluation, for us to be able to understand more about quantitatively what's happening with the beautiful work being done at Sensational Kids, we partnered up to use the program evaluation process that was designed by Tracy Stackhouse, who is the co-founder and executive director of Developmental FX. We collaborated to design this process to monitor the clinical outcomes and be able to track individual outcomes for clients, program level outcomes for the different disciplines, and site level data for the clinics and centers that we work with. Because we know that program evaluation can be really challenging in occupational therapy specifically because it's really time intensive, it has a huge added cost, And it's really difficult for us to find appropriate outcome measures that allow us to really track changes on the whole caseload of clients that we work with, who might be coming in with any number of different challenges and goals that they're trying to work on. So this modified program evaluation process, designed by Tracy Stackhouse and then implemented by us, is meant to account for all of that by being much more feasible and using this modified process that I will talk about to be able to track individualized goals. So our aim was to investigate the feasibility of this multidisciplinary, multi-site clinical program evaluation process using a client-centered outcome tool. We had all 4 centers of Sensational Kids collecting data across the occupational therapists and speech-language pathologists, and they were collecting data using this modified COPM process. So the COPM is the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure. It is traditionally a way for therapists to identify problem areas with clients that they can then rate and track performance over time. We've modified that process so that therapists actually collaboratively set goals with clients instead of just identifying problem areas. And then the clients and therapists can each rate the child's performance and their satisfaction with that performance over time. So we can really see more about how changes are being made on those meaningful goals that the family has set. For our program evaluation process, we had caregivers and therapists rating performance and satisfaction every 12 visits, so it was about every 3 months, depending on the level of service clients were engaged in. We then conducted our data analysis, where we calculated performance and satisfaction change scores the standard way that the COPM does. Parents and therapists rated performance and satisfaction on a 10-point scale in keeping with the COPM process, with 10 being the best. And we then tracked the percent of clients and therapists who were reporting clinically meaningful change on that tool. So with the COPM, traditionally a change of 2 points or more is considered clinically meaningful. And they have recently updated what counts as clinically meaningful for different populations because research is showing us that it varies. But the research on pediatric populations is still telling us that 2 points suggests a robust and noticeable difference in performance for our clients. We then also compared performance and satisfaction to see if they were matching up and compared them across both the client and therapist ratings to see how those looked. Excitingly, we had 264 clients collaborating with therapists at Sensational Kids to set goals. And of those 264, 157 reported follow-up ratings for our analysis. And the coolest thing for us to see was that almost 80% of those clients with follow-up ratings were reporting clinically meaningful changes. So here you can see numerically the changes that clients were reporting on the COPM. And the purple bars are representing their pre-service ratings. So before they got in therapy, how they were rating performance and satisfaction for their child on their individualized goals. And then the green bars represent how they were rating performance and satisfaction after those 12 visits, or about 3 months. And overall, on average, clients were reporting a 3.05 point change in performance, which was mirrored by satisfaction ratings, as you can see on this bar graph, and also mirrors the changes that therapists were reporting, which is really exciting to see because it suggests that they're really finding the same improvements through this therapeutic process.
So if we have a look at some of the considerations, obviously a collaboration like this, a process like this, it required a tracking system and it required a plan. So Hannah developed the tracking system and I developed the plan. The tracking system, what we did the tracking system was a magic spreadsheet. And what we did for the plan was we just added in our adapted COPM rating scale into our parent or caregiver questionnaire. So it became part of the parent consultation process that the clinicians were already engaging in. So it wasn't anything new or additional that they needed to do. After completing the questionnaire, the parents popped their top 5 priority goals into the COPM form, and then the clinicians went off and either did a standardized assessment or they engaged in diagnostic therapy with the children. Following that process, we meet with the parents again for a feedback consultation, and during this time, the parents and the clinicians would then set collaborative goals. So the clinician would give feedback on their findings. They would try and then match that up with what the parents' priority goals were. And out of those top 5 goals, they selected 3 goals together that they would then work on with the child. Those 3 goals were then rated on the COPM rating scale of 1 to 10 for performance and for satisfaction. So then what happened, the clinician went off and engaged in 12 therapy sessions with the child, or around about 12 therapy sessions. And then at that time, we would do a review consultation with the parent. So during that review consultation, we meet with the parents to discuss the child's progress. Are they making progress? Aren't they making progress? If not, why not? And we would look at reformulating the goals or setting new goals. So at that point, what we did was we re-rated the goals that the clinician had been working on, again, for satisfaction and performance. What the clinicians would then do is take those ratings, take those scores, and they would pop them into the magic spreadsheet that Hannah had created. So all of the clinicians were working off the same spreadsheet. So each clinician had their own color on the spreadsheet, just to make it a little bit easier for them to find their own clients, because obviously just the client's number was used, because we didn't have any names or anything like that. So they had their own colors, and they just used the client number, and they would go and put the ratings in for whether it was the first date or the second date that the data was going in. So the only thing that the clinicians really needed was a little bit of additional admin time to transfer the data from the form that they completed with the parent onto the spreadsheet. So we do need to recognize the other potential influences on data. So there were 165, I think, parents 265, sorry, original goal set, but we only had follow-up on 157. So a lot of that is some of children would have stopped therapy. The goals weren't set only with new children coming into the service. They were set with children right across the service, no matter where they were in their therapeutic process. So some children might have stopped therapy for whatever reasons. They might have come to the end of their therapeutic process. They might have needed to pull out before they were able to reevaluate. We may have had changes in clinicians where a new clinician came in and then set new goals with the therapist instead of following up on the older goals. And then obviously there were a number of children often cancel, they get sick, so that would have impacted on the number of therapy sessions that they would have attended in the period between goal measurement and rating. So there are a number of considerations and external factors that need to be taken into account. In terms of therapist training and competence, not all of our clinicians are at the same level. We have some senior clinicians, we have some new graduates in our service. All of our clinicians receive weekly supervision, and they're supervised by myself and our clinical team lead, and both of us are air sensory integration trained. So they're receiving supervision with an ASI lens, really. And when our clinicians come in, part of their induction process is that they're trained in the fidelity measure, in the AIRS fidelity measure. So the 10 aspects of the fidelity process. So I'm quite confident that our clinicians are providing a standardized therapeutic service across all 4 of our clinics.
So this program evaluation process really taught us a lot about what's possible. Clearly, this was a feasible system for the therapist to add into their typical workload. It was something that was very doable without a lot of changes to their process. It also was feasible for allowing us to see the individualized outcomes across the sites and disciplines. So it was something that worked not just for occupational therapy, but also for the speech language therapy providers and for all these individualized outcomes across clients. And the most exciting thing for us is that it does show us that these clients are making meaningful changes that are meaningful to them with this intensive holistic intervention being applied. So we know that these clients are making changes in their performance, participation, and occupational engagement, which is exactly what we're hoping for with our therapy services.
Right, so that brings us to the end of this presentation. Thank you everybody for listening. And we hope that this has been valuable, and we hope that you're able to implement an outcome measure in your own practice, because it was really valuable for us to know that it's not just the feedback we're getting, it's not just what we're seeing in therapy, where we know our children are improving and we're getting the feedback from parents, but now quantitatively we can stand behind the therapeutic support that we provide. And we can say that here at Sensational Kids, we know, we have numbers that show that we do make a meaningful change in children's lives. Thank you very much.